Hi all, good morning. Kate wasn't able to get together with us this week, so I'm going to be your Kate this morning and run through a few things in terms of getting ready to define and narrow your research topic. And a good place to start is that wonderful handout that she's provided. So if you have a look, pull up that document. It's the CEI EDLD HHP 520 educational research document. It's in our Moodle course. And look at those objectives. So we want to be able to identify some key resources that we need to access. We want to identify different indexes and databases that are useful to us and understand how those different word searches that we'll do can pull up the results that we're looking for. And then being able to kind of track and gather our citations as we go forward. And obviously having a systematic approach of doing this is going to be helpful in terms of being able to access your information later on. So some of the key resources that Kate's identified there, and as distance students, some of you around here, but you can take out an interlibrary loan, have documents delivered. The study carrels are those little wooden kind of areas in the library that you can go and book and work there if you would like. And then there's a couple of software tools for managing your research, such as EndNote and RefWorks. The library offers additional trainings on those. I've been to them, they're very useful. Both of those systems provide an automated bibliographic process, so you kind of put in your data, or you can just link to it from the web at times, and it produces your bibliography for you. Sometimes they're a bit tweaky, but they're pretty good. And there's some more information about those workshops at the library. So the literature review. I'm not going to read this. You can obviously read this for yourself. In a literature review, obviously it's important to come at that review with a topic and then figure out what the key research is in that area and what conclusions have been made. And in a similar way into what we've been doing with Alcott and Hammer and Pianta, take a critical perspective of that literature where you can and understand the kinds of methods that we use, so you can make good judgments about whether or not a piece of literature is good to have in your literature review. So let me just touch on those key steps. In a systematic review, you need to formulate a question, you need to find the studies, you need to appraise and select those studies, pull them all together, and come up with your conclusions. You need to guide the reader through that literature and point, key landmarks along the way, and then determine how that literature leads to the investigation that you're doing in this particular context. So for some of you, and for me, thinking of that initial research topic is the trick. So it's not uncommon, and I've done this on many occasions, just to be like, it's this kind of topic, let's hit Google. Let's go Google that and see what we find. But good advice from the library is to, first of all, spend some time formulating what it is that you're looking for, because there's obviously a world of different key terms that you can use to get at that information. So, let me just throw this document on the screen that I was just thinking about briefly as an example. Something I made up this morning. I would like to research, just starting with a very simple kind of statement, how children who like to read by themselves do in school. And I think that they would do better. Now, that took a couple of seconds to come up with something that interested me, but that's not really a great research topic. So I need to kind of turn that into an area, and turn that into a research topic that might be more searchable and allow me to get at that kind of that question. So there's a few things there. First of all, there's children, and there's people who like to read by themselves. And then there's this bit here, and maybe achievement would be a better term for that. So I guess the question is, what do these terms mean? I mean, I can do children, I can do read by themselves, and maybe there's another term that's better than that. And then there's achievement. But when we think of children, is it young children? Is it adolescents? Maybe is it junior high school, teens? I guess we need to be clearer there. Achievement, is it achievement on test scores, such as the Woodcock-Johnson test that was mentioned in the Hamlet Pianta article? Is it social, emotional conflict that we're looking at potentially with teachers? I'm not entirely sure, so it's important to kind of break those down, and that's what we need to think about here. So Kate mentions this in her document. So you need to understand that research question, identify the major concepts in your question, and identify potential terms that correspond to those concepts. Select alternative terms. And then she suggests using this Eric thesaurus, or in PsycInfo use the thesaurus of psychological terms. So let me just bring that thesaurus over. Getting started. Describe the topic in your own words, divide the topic into major concepts, use the thesaurus to locate the appropriate descriptors, subject headings, okay, and add the descriptors to your search. Alright, so let's do some search. Reading. Well, I was here just a moment ago, so that was in there. Let's search for children. Okay. There's 37 different descriptors in this thesaurus, which means there's 37 different ways of thinking about that population. And when I'm thinking about my research topic, I really haven't kind of defined it so clearly. Are we talking about abused children? Are we talking about disadvantaged children? Are we talking about, and some of these terms are older. You can see that gifting children is a current one. So let's say I'm talking about children who like to read by themselves, young children. I think that that's really my interest. So the nice thing about that is then it gives me some narrower terms. Infants, preschool, toddlers. Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of independent readers amongst infants, preschool, and toddlers. So let's go for kindergarten's another area. Elementary school is really what I was after. That's what I was thinking. It looks like elementary is pretty specific. So I'm going to take that term and I'm going to bring it over and put it in my document. I'm really interested in that group there, how elementary school children who like to read by themselves. So let's do reading, see what we get with reading. And maybe it's more independent reading, as I was saying. Reading, critical reading, early reading, individualized, maybe that's, okay. Independent reading. Excellent, look at that. So there's a whole bunch of different related terms that are going to be useful for me when it comes to researching this topic. So I'm going to make that who like to read independently. I'm typing over here, they like to read independently in school. And then I'm going to have, oh, not in school. It's really, we like to read independently outside of school. And then I've got these wonderful terms here now from Eric to narrow things down. So let me go back to Kate's document. So we've got a few more terms. We've selected alternative terms. We've got individualized reading, independent study, supplementary reading materials, reading interests, etc. And then I can begin to think about how I'm going to search for that. Maybe I want to search for elementary school children and independent study, elementary children and individualized reading, elementary school children and reading interests. So those are the different ones that I can pop into the Mansfield search engine. Let's see if I can bring that over. Okay, we'll go to those databases in just a moment. But I can put in elementary school children and what did I say? Let's start with the independent, the broadest term. So that's somewhat interesting. It's not targeted enough. It's not getting me at the kind of articles that I'd like to get at. So I maybe need to go more specifically into a database search. But already with independent reading, we can see the problem, and that is that it's more related to school rather than outside of school. So there's going to be terms amongst those ones that I found in the ERIC search that are more applicable. Okay. So let's go back and see what Kate's got here. So she's working through some, different terms here and defining those and ors, those Boolean searches, Boolean relationship between terms. There's reference to a couple of ways of understanding the value of an article by the amount of times it's been cited. And if you haven't checked out the Web of Knowledge, Web of Science, then it's an interesting way to do research. So get online and check that one out. Google Scholar is probably familiar to most of you. So research resources, let's go and get into one of those databases and do some kind of more searching. There's a link to this, the UM's thesis dissertation in our Moodle course. And what's nice about that is that there's examples of topics that other master students and doctoral students have investigated. So it gives you a kind of an idea of how they framed their research topics, which is always helpful. That idea of finding models and examples of research in that area can help you guide how you want to frame your research as well. Obviously, if the research has been done, you just don't simply want to reproduce the research. You need to kind of find your way through the different literature to come up with a topic that is unique and valuable within the field. That's what good research is about. It's about creating that new knowledge, building on the work of others, and critically analyzing that work and producing results that can inform future practice and theory and so on. So let's go back to the Mansfield Library site. And I'll just go back to the home page. And so if I want to go look at the database list, I can do this. And this is a complete list of all of the different databases that you can search, and search primarily for journals. A really helpful one is Academic Search Complete. This, as it says here, is multidisciplinary. It has multiple databases feeding into it, so it really covers a great deal of ground. So let's click on Academic Search Complete. Okay, and this is where our searches are much more effective at this level. We're in a database. So if I did elementary school children and independent reading, let's see what we get. Let me get rid of that. So you'll see already that this is the first hit that came up before, I think. But there's several that are in academic journals here. We're not getting the kind of mix that appeared on that search when we just kind of dropped it in the main search area there. And not all of those are kind of necessarily so relevant to us. We need to kind of narrow things down again. But we're getting some good hits. Let's get one of those other key terms again. Yeah, you know, if I'm thinking about my topic, it's more this recreational reading. So let's pull that recreational reading in and see what we get. And elementary school children and recreational reading. And it's good to keep a record of what it is that you're searching for, so you can do those searches again. So keep a note of those keywords. Okay. You know, and one helpful thing to do is to just say, okay, well, I'm still not entirely sure what some of that literature means. So why don't I just pull one of these up and have a look through the article. Let me see where the link to article is. Let's just pull up the HTML. Okay. So these are the kind of things that are helpful to me in thinking about what it is to conceive of this impact of recreational reading on elementary school children. Well, perhaps they just have a different attitude to reading, and maybe attitude is going to make a difference. So is attitude, the attitude of elementary school children towards recreational reading something that might predict student achievement? That's one potential topic. Gender. So does it make a difference whether boys or girls are recreational readers in this case? The methods section is very interesting because it gives you an idea of other ways that this has been done or similar things have been done before. Okay. And really what I was looking for when I came here was to get to the list of references at the end, because this is also going to provide me with some very, very helpful literature that in similar areas that has been done on this topic. So that one might be interesting, although the age group's slightly different. And so if I took that piece of research, found that paper, I could then look at that and say, well, to what extent does this apply to my particular group here? And that would be one angle of critiquing that particular item. So if I go back to Kate's suggestion there, that was just an example of how to do a quick database search on a particular topic. And what I'll have Kate do when we do catch up is talk a little bit more about how these databases work, because she's the expert in that area. So let me go back to Kate's original guide. As she says, there's no one resource that searches all the literature within a discipline. So there's a number of things that it's helpful to search for. And as we just saw, we searched in Academic Search Complete for leadership and curriculum. Oh, for elementary school children and recreational reading. But you might want to look in educational administration abstracts. You might want to look in the Education Resources Information Centre, which is kind of a clearinghouse of different articles and media and books and so on. PsycInfo is another helpful database that you can look up. And if it has a more medical kind of aspect, then maybe PubMed is one that's helpful too. So journals, if you're looking for a specific journal, then you can visit the Journals tab. Let's go back to the Mansfield Library. There's the Journals tab. Okay, find a journal. Well, you know, if I still have that article from the one that I just pulled up, then there would probably be a bunch of journals identified in those references lists that I could just, if I knew what they were, I could just pull up now and then find a specific journal. But let's say there's the journal. There must be a journal of elementary education. Elementary education online. Okay. Well, I don't think it's an online. It's about online education. It's about elementary education and available online. So that seems like a pretty good shot. And it looks like it's an open access journal. And Kate has a note in this document on open access journals, but they're essentially articles that are published and openly available on the web without subscription. So rather wonderful thing that academics are publishing their work openly, so everyone can benefit from their scholarship. Oh, I went to the directory there. I should have perhaps gone to, well, it's not helpful that it's going to be in a language that I don't even recognize. So we'll probably need to go back to the that's the beauty of research. You don't know what you're going to get sometimes. So, Journal of, and you school teachers out there know these ones probably better than I do. But I know there is a journal of online learning and teaching. And if I spell it correctly, let's see if it'll pull that up for me. Okay, good. So I go there and I can access my specific journal for the specific topic that I'm focused on. So I could do the same, presumably, if I did a little more hunting around in the bibliographies of papers to find out what the elementary school journals were. I could identify a specific periodical and then connect there and search through that one. And of course, some earlier versions are available at the library, so you might want to do that, but a world of resources are available online, so it should be possible to do the kind of research that you need to do online. Okay. The impact factor of particular journals, that's interesting. The journal citation reports give you an idea of which journals are most impactful, and you would imagine things like Nature and Science, those two huge journals that you hear NPR mention from time to time, are some of the most kind of impactful journals to publish in. But other journals, key journals in the field, will have a higher rating than ones that are less so. So there's obviously some distinctions in terms of getting published within one that is very difficult to get work published in, and one that is less so. and their impact rating makes a difference in terms of what particular journal you're being published in. So journal citation reports will provide some information about that. The open access literature, we just looked at an example, and that Journal for Online Learning and Teaching is open access as well. It's content published by academics who make it freely available. The citation management software, I'm not going to spend so much time on that, but if you want to learn more about EndNote or RefWorks, I guess I've been kind of leaning towards RefWorks in terms of those two systems, and RefWorks is pretty handy, and Kate and others, Sam Hines at the library will help you kind of explore that. I did attend one of the workshops on RefWorks to start with, but I have an account and you can organize your literature and then pull it into a bibliography at the end, which is very helpful. And some more information on that. And this was great. This was something that, you know, I really got a great takeaway from. The keeping current, and that's really what it's about. I think when we go back and finish our degrees and are in the various kind of school systems, education positions, we just need to kind of keep up on what's going on. And there's obviously different ways to do that, and one of them is using RSS feeds. The little logo appears, it looks like some broadcast signal, it's orange. You can subscribe, I mean, you can bring those RSS feeds into your email, or you can use a Google Reader, you can use a site that brings all that information to you. But this was my takeaway, this table of content alerts. So again, you can attend a workshop, but just Google table of content alerts, and basically you can subscribe to those key journals that you're interested in, and every time a new edition is published, you'll get an alert to your email. I got one earlier today, but it's just a fantastic way to bring the research to you rather than having to go out and get it yourself. Okay, so that's some basic information on doing some really basic stuff at the library, and I'll have Kate kind of provide a more advanced overview. But that has helped me go from, and obviously I need to do some more systematic kind of searching in my topic, but my topic has kind of narrowed somewhat, so I'm now focused on how elementary school students who like to read independently, independent readers, how that their independent reading impacts their achievement in school. And now that I have that topic, I can begin to kind of investigate those different areas. Achievement is something that needs broken down as well. What do we mean by achievement? So maybe there's some other keywords that can be investigated. And what I'll do in the next kind of phase is again, trying to distinguish what's being done and what are those areas that still need to be done. And when you pull up those research articles, when you go into the discussion section of those articles, there's usually a section, there's always a section that suggests further areas of study. Keep track of those. It's important to keep track of those. And then, really look for that key, that thing that is important that maybe you've observed. But I would like to know, I think, because I'm just making up this topic now, that I would like to understand how a child picking up a book in their own free time relates to how their academic achievement is in school. So now I'm not sure that those terms that we, independent, individualized reading, intellectual freedom, reading interests, it's more personal choice. So personal choice at home in picking up a book. That's the kind of thing that interests me. How does that focus, that attitude, that motivation relate to how kids do in school? And that's an interesting topic to kind of puzzle through. poses some questions about how I'm going to be able to get at that data. But those are the kind of things that we can explore more. So I hope that's helpful. And feel free to shoot me and Morgan a note if you have further questions.